Shalom, folks. Saludos a todos. This is going to be a short hangout, and it's going to be in English. I was going to do it in English and then in Spanish, but I'll just do it in English. Double sun, okay? So this will be a short hangout. What I'm going to do is show again another video of a double sun. That's not a second sun, it's the same sun, but it's double, like a reflection. So I'm going to play the video twice, okay? Note, first of all, the person videoing it is outdoors. There's no pane of glass between him and the sun. So there's no reflection on double glazing. And as he's filming, you'll see the glare, the lens flare, sorry, of two suns. So, enjoy. Okay. Notice the lens flare. I'm pointing it with my cursor, but I'm not sure if my cursor is showing. It's, if you look at the car there, you'll see what looks like an orb, and to the right a smaller, more faint, in the same configuration as the two lights in the sky. So keep your eyes on the car, and as I play you'll see that those things move, and that's lens flare.
So, two suns.
This is the double sun. This is what Globebusters and Chris Van Mitra tried to fake with their telescope, which was properly debunked by Wolfie 6020, but they refused to acknowledge what they'd done. Okay? This is a real double sun.
Or Nibiru, or the Red Kachina, or the Destroyer, or whatever you want to call it. Prophecy's kind of my bag, so I enjoy reading a lot of it. I have for about 40 years.
Notice that in all double sun videos, the second sun, or the cloned sun, is more faint than the first.
There we go.
Not the lens flare too.
I'm going to raise up and see if I can find anything else around it. Sometimes there's an orb over here, but if you look closely,
Okay, gonna play it again.
okay.
Now, if these two suns were over a lake, both of them would have a trail, a reflection of the sun in the water, obviously. And I've shown video of this in the past. Double suns above water with double sun paths or sun trails reflecting in the water.
So, two suns. or Nibiru, or the red Kachina, or...
So he's saying two suns, or Nibiru, or the red Kachina. I will show you what he's referring to with the red Kachina, or the purifier of the Hopi prophecy.
The destroyer, or whatever you want to call it. Prophecy's kind of my bag, so I enjoy reading a lot of it. I have for about 40 years.
Now, for anybody worried, that is not the red star Kachina. The red star Kachina is a star that will appear that is red and that will be visible continuously. Maybe throughout the day and night, but it will certainly be visible throughout the night. This is a bifurcation of the holoprism that presents itself as the sun. This, I'll give you a description of what is actually going on, how this is happening, okay? But let's watch it again first. He's now scanning the sky for any other anomalies. But note the flares, the lens flares. They are a telltale.
There we go. I'm going to raise up and see if I can find anything else around it. Sometimes there's an orb over here, but if you look closely,
and no, that's not a sundog. So I'll play it a second time, a third time, sorry, and I will explain what's actually happening. Okay. Now, I know that some people will be thinking, who the hell does Antonio think he is with all this supposed knowledge of the sun? Why does he think that he has any kind of valid ideas about the sun? That's what I would be asking. Well, first, observation. Okay, like the first principle for scientific findings is observation. So first, observation. Shadows and crepuscular rays are not parallel. Okay, I've shown this many times. Any of you can see this just by looking at a fence and the shadows cast by a fence. Just measure the distance by the shown by the shadows. Okay, just measure the distance at the base of a post and the farthest point of the shadow. Okay, so measure the distance between the two here and the two there, and you see its place. Okay, the sun is a holoprism. It is not at any actual distance, just like a rainbow. I've said this so many times I should have it tattooed on my forehead. The sun is just like a rainbow. Now, what's actually happening? Oh, sorry, back to who the hell do I think I am with this knowledge, supposed knowledge, or these ideas, okay? I decided to figure out the shape of the Earth, to map the shape of the Earth. I conducted a series of sun tracking sessions, for those of you who don't know, of 24-hour sun tracking sessions. I plotted where the sun was on the Gleasons, so that the Gleasons doesn't work, then tried to figure out, okay, so to correct the land sizes of the Gleasons means also altering the observation points. So, for instance, if the sun is thought to be at solar noon from Greenland and also at solar noon from eastern Brazil simultaneously, But it turns out that eastern Brazil is not directly here. I'll draw. 1 second. Actually, let me. Yeah, I'll come back to this screen. Just give me a second. Okay. Hello. In yesterday's scribbles, I will do a very quick drawing from the North Pole, Greenland, Iceland, and America over here, and this is according to the Gleasons, okay? Yucatan Peninsula and Brazil, like so. Okay, this is basically, can you see? Okay, so here's Arctic Circle, very much smaller than the Arctic Circle, okay? Greenland, Brazil, and according to the Gleasons, you can see that the longitude goes something like this, okay? So, eastern Brazil would have solar noon, same time as Greenland, but Brazil and South America, is not as large as the Gleasons portrays it. So when you correct its size, like I've done, you arrive at, well, not possibility of solar noon here at the same time as solar noon there. But in the real world, we do have solar noon here at the same time. Do you understand? So when I realized this, I thought, okay, so we're going to have to reconsider our thoughts about the sun, what the heck the sun is and how it works. So I did a lot of thinking, a lot of thinking, a lot of contemplating, a lot of trying not to think, a lot of observing, and finally, when I realized that I couldn't figure it out, I asked God. Now, how many scientists have asked God to help? I'd say pretty much 0 of them. None. Okay, so anyway, this is how I figured these things out. And then you get little pointers. It feels very much like psychosis. Tiny little pointers. Just look at this video. Or, oh, look at this video that's just popped up about double suns. Or spend the whole day tracing and looking at videos of double suns. The ones that are reflections on glass versus the ones that are actual double suns in the sky. Right, so now I'm going to explain to you what this is, how this happens, okay? And I'll do it again with drawings. Right. Oh, wait. I will first display the drawing and then I'll go back to that video. Here's a horizon, okay? Don't worry too much about it being curved. Okay, and here I'm going to draw the shape, the base of, well, what would be a cylinder, okay? And the cylinder is kind of curved. Okay, so can you see it's like a curved cylinder. Now this, you can call this a Gaussian beam, if you like, okay? So that's a cylindrical, laser-like beam. This beam is bisected by what are called airy beams, which are self-bending beams. Okay, so now I'm going to draw a small tube to play the role of an airy beam, which is actually made of a myriad different beams that converge at a point, and where they converge, the right hand rule causes a very slight turning. Okay, so this is another little cylinder. When it touches this, it generates the sun. Okay, but usually it generates the sun where it comes out. Okay, so this is what we call the sun. So you see that here is coming in from behind, and here it's coming out from the front. Okay, so this is the back of the Gaussian beam, and the airy beam crosses into it, comes through, comes out, and this, and it continues, okay? But we only see this. This is what we call the sun. These are not visible. The rest of these beams are not visible unless they have an atmospheric condition which allows them to manifest differently, like we see in the video. This is the double sun, okay? This is the clone. So this is the clone sun, and this is the real sun. Now, when you're further over this way, this is not just one Gaussian beam, okay? These, the reason the sun is holoprismatic is that there's a multitude, there's a whole series of them. So, as you see, whole series of beams. And this is why different people in different locations, when one person is seeing the sun here, another person over here is seeing the sun there. Okay? Because here there's another Gaussian beam being crossed through by the same ring or the same airy beam. Okay? This is how you have solar noon here whilst having solar noon there in different locations. Okay? Now, this also is how at different times, so when it's not solar noon here, you have a point where this, as this beam crosses, there's a ring. Again, this is not a singular ring, there are many of them. It's like a hologram. So, at a different location when it's not solar noon, the sun is lower in the sky. And as the day goes on and the whole system turns, remember, we're talking electromagnetic arrays here, or electromagnetic fields. These are electromagnetic fields penetrating each other. Okay? This is earlier in the day, lower in the sky. As the day comes, it rises in the sky. This is the sun. This is how you have double suns. And now I'll show you again the video, and now you'll be able to project mentally the tube, the cylinder, on which we see usually just one side of the cylinder, but under special circumstances, the same kind of special circumstances that bring us a rainbow. We don't always have a rainbow. We have rainbows under special circumstances. It's similar with this. Under special circumstances, we have this, which is two sides of the Gaussian beam that presents the sun, two different sides of that tube manifesting what appears like the sun. So you would have the sun that's the brightest, the one on the left, being on the part of the tube which is closest to us, versus the more muted sun on the part of the tube that is farthest from us.
So, two suns. Or Nibiru, or the Red Kachina, or the Destroyer, or whatever you want to call it.
The Purifier.
Prophecy's kind of my bag, so I enjoy reading a lot of it. I have for about 40 years.
So now imagine a tube rising up and curving. The curve is not so important, okay? But rising up, a tube, a cylinder, with the bright sun on the left being on the front left of the cylinder, and the more muted sun on the right being on the back right of the cylinder.
There we go.
And when you have more than two suns, like I've also shown, it's the same situation, just from a different angle. But it's still the first wall, the second wall, then the third wall, as in a different tube, but you don't continue having more repetitions. It will come to a point where we will have many repetitions, many iterations. And that's what the Chinese explained in their mythology when they had 10 suns in the sky.
I'm going to raise up and see if I can find anything else around it. Sometimes there's an orb over here, but if you look closely,
Okay, so let me close that. Sorry folks, just trying to right. So the reason I showed that is so that it's documented, at least on this channel. That was from Facebook, by the way. So I don't know if the guy who made the video put it on YouTube, but now it's on YouTube. So again, horizon, tube, manifestation on front of tube, manifestation on back of tube, of an airy beam, like so, okay? Real sun, cloned sun. Now this airy beam, okay, this is just the displays the zenith, okay? It isn't the case that when you look at the sun, there's like sunlight going in that direction only, okay? We're talking the electromagnetic field that is going to present the sun throughout the day has a direction. We know this because it's what it scrolls across the sky. Now, when you look at the sun and you zoom in and you see all the weird little action, that's because the airy beam, which all light, okay, here's a laser, okay? There's a bendy laser. Right, let me do it again. I'm an artist after all. There's a laser, okay? Now, bear this in mind. Here's the actual device. Here's the laser. And we think, and we've been taught to think of waves so that we think light is a wave and a laser is a very high frequency wave. And we think that's what's going on. It's like, wait a second. And I do explain this in the book that I've just published, but I'm going to explain it now. This is what we think, this is what we've been taught. It's like, wait a second, from every single instance of this beam, from every single Planck length of the beam, there are energized filaments projecting the light, the information of that beam, to the environment in all directions. Okay, so up, towards you, away from you, and in all possible directions. From every single instance along the beam. That's why you see it, because the information goes from the beam along the beam. Yes, that's the main source and the main points of the information, but also to your eyes. That's why your eyes receive the information too, and the environment above, below, from an angle. So from an angle like this, from an angle like that. So along the whole length of a laser, there are beams, there are filaments being energized by the laser, which are transmitting its information to your fovea through minuscule filaments. Everything, all electromagnetism is filamentary. Through filaments to your fovea, okay? Along every instance. Now, if we were to limit or trap a portion of the laser, if we could trap a portion of the laser as it's being projected, like for instance, if you have, some of you who make colloidal silver will know this, when you get distilled water and you shine a laser through it, you don't see the laser in the distilled water. Later, as the particles have started to dissolve, then you start to see the laser in the water. Okay, so let's imagine that this airy beam that presents the sun is like a laser in a non-particulate diffracting medium. And it reaches a point where the field, that is the Gaussian beam, acts as a diffracting medium. So now we see the information, okay, like this, a portion of the laser. Okay, when we look at the laser and we zoom in, we will see many filaments coming out towards the device that's zooming in, or the eye. And that's what we see when we look at the sun. A bunch of information, of filamentary information that looks organic, it behaves organically. It's not hexagonal. It's, although the Dr. Robitaille explains that it's a hexagonal latticed array, the visuals don't explain that. There might be other frequencies that show that, but the visuals don't. Okay, so if they are hexagonal in shape, splendid. They decay as they transform to more visible light, to less hexagonal and much more chaotic seeming. So all the little bubbles on the surface of the sun from high zoom images of the sun, which are real with the sunspots, okay, the real images, those distorted little bubbling areas are beams. Every single one is a beam coming directly towards you, directly towards what's filming it. Now, when you get arcing, that's just distortions. When you get sunspots, that's a point where the information, like say the laser, okay, which has these cells that, so imagine this is a laser, okay, what transmits the laser. You're looking into it, okay? And this is a very rough explanation. Let's say this is the lens that shoots the beam out, okay? So with a laser, you would have a series of what you could, for ease of interpretation, consider as pixels, if you want, okay? It would be great if you did that. So pixels, each sending a beam. Okay, and this beam is collimated, like columns, made into columns that are kind of held together. They retain their integrity. They don't splay more chaotically or more haphazardly by virtue of their own integral electromagnetism. They bind together like a bundle of spaghetti. Okay, so this would be the laser. Okay, looked at straight in, zoom in. Okay, like this. Make this chaotic and call it the sun. Now, with this, if you imagine it being these cells being instead pixels, okay? Now picture that a pixel has died. What does it look like then? A black area. And what happens to the energy of the surrounding pixels, the surrounding collimated little beams? Well, some of that energy goes in to fill the void, because that's how magnetism works. There's no magnetism doesn't just leave voids. If there's a void, magnetism fills it. So this is the sun. I'm sorry that I've not made a more elaborate drawing. This is how the sun works. This is how the sun is holoprismatic. Okay, a prism is a lens of some type, a substance. A prism is a substance that changes the direction of light. That's what a prism is. Okay, it changes, it modifies the direction of light, which means the direction of information. That's what a prism is. A hologram is a system that contains all of the information within that system in every part of that system. That's why I call it a hollow prism, because in every part of that system there is a prismatic element, a tube. Every part of the sky there are tubes, like so. And these tubes, let me put a horizon there, these tubes are everywhere. We see them in the sky as stars, and when these tubes are traversed by a high energy beam, like what brings us the sun, we see the sun. And when the conditions allow for the sun to show itself by being manifested on the opposite, because these tubes are tubular, they are actual tubes, they have an actual shape. They're not like the theoretical waves of physics. They are real physical, they have real physical dimensions. Okay, they are real tubes. That they're intangible doesn't mean they're not tubes. Just like the rainbow is intangible, but it's also a tube. It's an arc, because we're looking at a tube sideways. Okay, so this is what we have going on. This is the sun. Now, I've called this Deafening Silence because in China they showed a video of the double sun. Somebody filmed a double sun, and they showed it on their mainstream television news. In Britain, I've never seen anything on the mainstream. Mind you, I don't watch television news, but I have lots of friends who do. They would have told me. There's no report of double suns. I doubt that there are in the US. I doubt that there are anywhere in the West, because physicists can't explain them like I've explained them. So they just simply pretend like they don't happen. We know that this is how they work. They simply pretend like it's not happening. That way, the number of people who hear about them is a very small number of people, a fringe number of people, and they can be dismissed as conspiracy theorists. Now, thanks to whoever it was, I wish I knew, who came up with the term corruption denier. It wouldn't surprise me if it was somebody like Matt Powerland, to be honest, who, by the way, has been completely censored. I'll tell you about it in a second. When they say conspiracy theorist, we can say corruption denier, because that's what it comes down to. Let's face it, every single conspiracy and every single conspiracy theory is either a conspiracy of corruption or a conspiracy theory about corruption. Both, corruption is integral to the whole question. So when people call you a conspiracy theorist, accuse them by a question of being a corruption denier. Are you a corruption denier? And let them answer it. You don't need to explain to them what a corruption denier is. They can figure it out. Okay? They'll not want to answer it, but let them. Give them time and tell them that you're giving them time. I'll give you time. Think about it. Tell them that. Think about it. Are you a corruption denier? Right. That's it, folks. Before I go, I'm just going to explain. Matt Powerland has been making videos on Instagram, and I've been watching them. He passed me a video yesterday and muted. Instagram has muted him. I can't unmute him. And all of his other videos, which I watched last week, I was watching some, muted. Now I don't know if you guys have gone to see his Instagram. If you go there and you see that he's muted too, then that's Instagram muting him. Why would Instagram mute Matt Powerland? Because Matt Powerland is the GOAT. So that's why. Right, folks. That's it. Let me quickly go into the chat. Angel Fire 451 came up with conspiracy denier. Oh, right, conspiracy denier. Corruption. Corruption. It's much stronger. Much stronger. Corruption denier. The Book of the Sun, rotating clockwise as it does, the colour of the rainbow appears. There was a fantastic photograph taken from Chile years ago. I showed it on my channel, but the channel got killed. Of the sun in these red concentric circles. The actual sun, not a CGI photo, several photos actually. And the woman who took the images said that the images don't do it justice because the image shows mainly yellow and red, when in reality it was the rainbow colours in the sun. This is why I said the sun is like a rainbow. Hey Jason Rogers, how are you doing? Right, so corruption in here. Yeah, Paul Russon, you dude, I borrowed it from someone. I really wish I knew who it was. But yeah, corruption denier. Words have weight. Words have power. Ah, yes. Before I go, Blue Star Kachina, Red Star Kachina. Sorry. Let me. A bit. Let's see. Oh, that was loud. Sorry, folks. Ah, yes. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste in the chat, and you have to take what the video with a pinch of salt regarding some of the terms, okay, that are used. Now, I think the terms were used so that the guys making the prophecy could get away with saying the prophecy without just being straightforward killed if they said something like the earth being flat, okay, which they don't. They talk about the earth being like a globe. So either they're just straightforward wrong, because all prophecies have elements of interpretation, obviously, but also as a way of getting it through censors. Okay, so if you have a Hopi elder talking about the flat earth and the red star Kachina and the blue star Kachina, nobody would ever hear that story. Instead, if they say, oh no, it's a ball and the blue star Kachina, I say, oh right, okay. So I pasted it in the chat, and I'll just tell you quickly, there's the blue star and the red star. The blue star is a warning star. So this is the story, very loosely told. The Hopi say that before the end of days, or the end of time, the end of the world, before the world is renewed, the blue star Kachina will visit the Hopi and the children at night in the dancers. In other words, it will be a dancer. One of their dancers will be possessed by the spirit that makes him say, I'm not going as the spirit of this or the spirit of that. I'm going as the blue star Kachina. And nobody will be able to stop him, and he will go as the blue star Kachina, and he will dance, and everybody will see this guy with this costume, with that dance, that's the blue star Kachina. And shortly after this dancer has danced, and these dances sometimes go on for 3 or 4 days, sometimes even longer. This is continuous dancing, by the way, okay, trance dancing. After the dancer dances for the Hopi, dressed as the blue star Kachina, the blue star Kachina will appear in the sky. And shortly after the blue star appears in the sky, the red star Kachina will appear in the sky. And the red star Kachina is the spirit of renewal and guardianship. So the story is that the red star Kachina will look down on the earth, see how people are behaving, and preside over the many changes that will take place before the end of days. And those who are pure, or who go back to purity, or who go back to living naturally without violating all kinds of nature's laws, all those people will live as if nothing major is going on, whilst everybody else is losing their minds, being confused about sex and all kinds of stuff. It literally says that, by the way. So watch the video that I linked in the chat. So when the gentleman who was filming the double sun talked about the red star Kachina, that's what he's referring to. Okay, folks, so that's it. I hope you enjoy, and enjoy your thoughts. Enjoy your thoughts and choose your own interpretation, okay? But, by the way, some things aren't up for debate. This is, you can choose to see the sun some other way, it doesn't matter. This is what the sun is, okay? Now, so that you understand, my understanding is the horizon, here's a rainbow, okay? And as you travel, so here you are in a spaceship car. Oh, look, rainbow here. Again here, car, spaceship car. Oh, rainbow there. The same rainbow. You don't see this rainbow and that one at the same. You're traveling, it's like, there's a rainbow. It's not 2 minutes later, rainbow, wait, there's the other one over there that we saw 2 minutes ago. No, it's the same rainbow. Why? Because it's a series of tubes. Okay? That's the rainbow. And this is, we see the cross section of this tube, again the horizon. If we could freeze frame and change perspective, which is what the globelings like to do, which is why they're so enamored with the globe, because they can look at the globe and go, and what does it look like 2 hours earlier? Rotate back and go, oh, interesting. In the real world, you can't really do that. What does the world look like 2 hours earlier? Reverse the sun. You're reversing all of the tubes. You're reversing everything that's being traversed by the holoprismatic system, the airy beam and the Gaussian beam, and it's holoprismatic. You cannot do a snapshot of it. So this, if we could freeze frame and look from a different angle, this will be what a rainbow looks like. and we look at it from this point of view. This is one rainbow, and as you move to this location, you have this rainbow, and so on. The sun is like the rainbow. Thanks for watching, folks. Hasta luego.